I've had my eye on the series ever since I randomly came across the first trailer. And if you're someone who follows seasonals, you have definitely heard of this show, or have maybe even been anticipating it. This first episode was fairly pleasant, just about what was expected of the series. I loved the cyberpunk kind of feel to it, the animation and music were phenomenal. I also loved how it felt a little remnant of Pluto from last season, where it's set in a society of humans and robots, or androids in this case. But a really big standout point prevalent throughout it was the pace of events. Narratively speaking, this episode wasn't the best. It felt like we started at point B rather than point A, which felt kind of weird. But I'm gonna assume it's one of those type of shows where one future event happens first, but after an episode or two, they give us a prologue episode. And while I'm on the topic, I gotta bring up the fact that Rouge was strangely compliant with a talking bird giving her orders, and she didn't even know Naomi beforehand. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I was kinda under the impression she might have worked for this organization and they'd assign someone to work with her or have an agent send orders via that bird. Or considering how she's a doofus, she's just not suspicious of a random bird telling her to go stake out an enemy. Okay, moving on to the actual episode. I think this is the first time I've seen an anime where there's a civilization and a modern city on Mars rather than Earth. Makes me wonder if we'll ever get to that point. Anyways, they set up this antagonist group called the Immortal Nine, although we don't know their objectives nor do we know why Naomi and Rouge are going after them. So hopefully within the next few episodes they explain all this and what the lore is behind them. But then we also have this other antagonist who just refers to himself as Joker. Not entirely sure if he's a part of this Immortal Nine or he works separately. As I mentioned earlier, Rouge is on a stakeout. She becomes kinda an assistant for this popular idol, Sarah Fitzogard, to find out if she's one of the Immortal Nine members, Viola. Also, I really like how everyone has this mech-like robotic suit armor. So far, it only seems like the Immortal Nine and Rouge have these. And speaking of Rouge's armor, you cannot tell me that doesn't look like Issei's dragon armor in High School DxD. The designs look way too similar to each other. I keep thinking about that every time I see her armor. Even when the first teasers drop, the key visuals and trailers come out, it's always given me that impression. Anyways, my thoughts are all over the place right now. I forgot to mention something important. The androids need nectar to survive. It seems like a type of injection thing they put to fuel themselves with energy or something like that. So correct me if I'm wrong here, I may have misunderstood. That Joker guy, or I think they said his name was Jaron, mentions to Sarah/Viola that an important nectar has been stolen by the Crimson Gladiator, aka Rouge, which is a pretty fire nickname by the way. What I didn't really get was Jaron bringing up the possibility of someone suspicious or a stranger approaching Viola, and she thinks about the time she met Rouge. That logic just made no sense whatsoever because Rouge didn't even approach her. Viola saw herself in Rouge while passing by and decided to be the one to approach her. But it's anime, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised at this point. Viola, now with the suspicion of Rouge knowing her identity, decides to settle things with her. That aside, it was very interesting to see that Jaron also has that mech armor. But not only that, but he can imitate someone's appearance, which explains why Rouge was at Viola's mansion earlier in the episode. The Rouge, or should I say Metallic Rouge, versus Viola fight was great. I loved the animation. The OC playing during it was godly, and it's a W when there's no CGI integration. Cause usually when there's armor or mech related stuff involved, they usually slap CGI on it most of the time. And I'm really hoping they can keep up this kind of visually stunning animation in the future. But yeah, aside from all that, it was a solid episode and I'm really looking forward to more. But my main gripe was just really how there's no build up to any of this, which I admit the narrative was a bit confusing. But hopefully we get that prologue episode next week. Sorry for shoving this in now, I forgot and felt the need to mention this. I didn't consider it before, but I can understand the series being the type of show where things will slowly unravel. They drop clues and hints at things here and there before we really understand the bigger picture of everything. We just have to piece those clues together. For example, I figured Viola and Jaron were working together as part of this organization, and they had previous comrades who got taken out by Rouge. So if Viola is in the Immortal Nine and she's working with Jaron, then I was wrong about my statement earlier. Jaron is definitely one of the Immortal Nines. Just so far from what we know of it, it seems like they all have their own personal agendas. Viola wanted freedom and to be able to be a singer and not a slave to humans. At least that's my theory. While Jaron goes against how he was programmed and wants to kill. Yet despite all these clues, there's no consecutive reason, at least I feel like there's no consecutive reason for Rouge and Naomi's goals for going after the Immortal Nine. I mean, sure, they could be trying to stop androids from killing humans, but there could also be more to it. My point here is, even if they don't tell us directly, I just hope they drop more pieces of context here and there so the hints and clues are more clear to put together rather than everything just being subtle without us having to theorize our own conclusion. For them to just reveal an entire info dump last minute, I'd rather they go about it in a different way than that. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comments.